Let's go. All right. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast. My name is Kyle Dabro. So, in this stream, we're going to go over the Game 6 matchup that took place, that actually just finished between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. And if you guys hadn't watched the game, or if you guys didn't know what happened, we had the Milwaukee Bucks defeat the Atlanta Hawks by the score of 118 to 107. With the win, Milwaukee advances to the NBA Finals, and they will square off against the Phoenix Suns going into next week. So let's just dive into the game real quick. I'll give my thoughts, I'll give my opinions, and if you guys are more than welcome to chime in into the stream whenever you want to. So let's just dive into the game real quick. So I got the box score pulled up here, and the one thing that I want to focus here is two things. So obviously the Bucks came to play, and they got out to a very hot start right at the beginning of the game. Now, granted, they only won the first quarter by 4 points, but the fact that they got off to a very decent start, they were knocking down some shots early. Milwaukee was able to get into a rhythm, and it kind of carried into. I'll take this back. I don't want to say that they carried over into the second quarter, because I thought, by and large, in the second quarter, I thought both teams really struggled, just because they only scored 19 points in the second quarter between the Hawks and the Bucks. So I mean, there wasn't a lot of scoring going on in the second quarter, but really where this game I thought flipped on its head was in the third quarter, when Chris Middleton just popped off. He could not miss a shot. He had 30 points in the game overall, but he scored the majority of his points in the third quarter. I believe he scored I think he scored 23 points just in the third quarter alone. He could not miss. And not only that, you had Drew Holiday. He was getting very active. You also had some role players step up as well. You had Pat Connaughton drop 13 points off the bench. You had Jeff Teague drop 11 points. And not only that, Drew Holiday, whenever Chris was out of the game, Drew took over. And Drew made some very timely shots, and he executed extremely well in this game. Like I said, dropped 27 points, shot about 50% from the field. Same goes with Chris Middleton. But I really think that when Chris went off in the third quarter, that's when this game completely flipped. And in my eyes, it presented Atlanta too big of a hole to come back from. Now, I will give Atlanta credit. In the fourth quarter, they made a very strong comeback. I mean, at one point, they were down 22 points in the third quarter. And, I mean, at that point, you might as well pack it up and call it a day. You're down almost 25 points at home, and it just looks like it's going to be the Bucks night. But I got to give Atlanta credit. They came back. They got it to only a 6-point deficit at one point in the fourth quarter. Atlanta was knocking down shots. They got into a rhythm behind the 3-point line, and it looked like that Atlanta had a very good opportunity to make it a one-possession game with about 3 or 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But Drew Holiday, like I just mentioned, he made some timely shots in this game, and that fourth quarter layup, I want to say he made this layup with about maybe 3.5 minutes left in the game. Gets a reverse layup. It puts the Bucks back up 8, and it just seemed like the Hawks could not close the gap any further than what they did prior to that. And look, the Bucks made their shots. They made the shots they needed to make, and they're moving on to the NBA Finals. And just to kind of focus on Atlanta here for a second, look, I thought Atlanta had a pretty valiant effort. I'll just scroll down to their box score so you guys get a better view of what I'm talking about. Obviously, Trey was definitely affected by that ankle injury. I just appreciate the fact that he went out there and tried to give everything that he could for the team. But you could clearly tell that he was limited. He did not get really a lot of lift off of his jump shots, even on some of his layups. He wasn't able to get the lift necessary to knock down some runners or some layups. So it's tough. I've had ankle injuries before. Granted, his was pretty severe, and him just going back on the court, I could appreciate him putting all the effort out on the court for that. Obviously, he did not have the best night shooting. It was 4-17 from the field. Only had 14 points. Like I said, he was pretty limited with the ankle injury, but I appreciate the fact that he went out there and gave it his all. And look, when I'm looking down the rest of this box score, the one stat that really pops out to me, the one guy in particular, is Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter had an atrocious night. 2 of 10 from the field. He was 1 of 6 behind the three-point line. He just could not get into any sort of rhythm whatsoever, and it hurt Atlanta because Atlanta could have definitely made this a game had Kevin knocked down some early shots, but he just wasn't able to get into a rhythm the entire night. I did think that the one standout from Atlanta was Cam Reddish coming off the bench. Even though that he was on a minutes restriction, he was sensational. Shot over 50% from the field, had 21 points coming off the bench, and I actually thought that what the Hawks should have done is that they should have kept feeding Cam Reddish a little bit more in the fourth quarter instead of Trey. I think this was one of those scenarios where you got to feed the hot hand. Cam was having a sensational fourth quarter, and I wish Atlanta would have continuously fed him the ball because I just don't think that Trey was the guy to make those plays simply because of how limited he was with the ankle injury. It just, the way that I look at it, maybe Cam should have gotten a little bit more shot opportunities in the fourth quarter, but that's neither here nor there. It doesn't really matter at this point. But all in all, man, Atlanta they did not shoot well from the field. They struggled as a team, not only just inside the three-point line, but behind the three-point line as well. And they missed some timely free throws. Granted, I know they shot 82% from the free throw line, but when you're down at one point by 22 points, you got to knock down all those free throws to at least give yourself a chance to get back into the game. So 82% from the free throw line is not bad, but when you're down in the game, you got to make those shots. And, those 4 missed free throws definitely could have made somewhat of a difference late in the fourth quarter. But just all in all, Atlanta had some chances. And I think once Chris got on that roll in the third quarter, I think Atlanta was pretty much on the ropes at that point. Granted, they did make that comeback going into the later stages of the fourth quarter. But all in all, you got to give the Bucks a lot of credit. Going on the road, granted, they had all the momentum going into this game after they pretty much spanked the Hawks in Game 5. And they got through their early game woes, especially in the second quarter, and they just turned on the heat in the third quarter, because that to me is when the game blew up. And they scored 44 points as a team in the in the third quarter compared to Atlanta's 29. And then Atlanta had to play catch up the entire fourth quarter. So really, Milwaukee did their damage in the third quarter, and that to me was the difference in this game. The fact that Chris Middleton went on the hot streak that he did. You had Drew Holiday, who was providing a solid impact on the team. And then they were getting decent production across the board from Brook Lopez, Connaughton, Jeff Teague. I mean, Jeff Teague has not played much at all in the playoffs whatsoever for the Bucks. He plays 12 minutes and drops 11 points. I mean, that's huge coming off the bench for a guy that has gotten limited minutes throughout the playoffs. So good on Jeff Teague for making the most of his minutes. And it's really weird for me to say, but I would have never envisioned a scenario where the Milwaukee Bucks, out of all of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, that they are the ones getting in. Personally, in my opinion, I thought either the 76ers or the Brooklyn Nets would have made it to the finals. But Atlanta surprised me by the fact that they upset Philly in the second round. And the Bucks surprised me by upsetting the Nets in the second round. So congratulations to the Bucks. It's their first NBA Finals appearance in like 3 or 4 decades. It's been a long time that the Bucks have really been in a situation where that they are actually competing for an NBA title here. So you got to give Milwaukee a lot of credit. I might be completely wrong about the last finals appearance that they made. You could fact check me on that later. It doesn't really matter. But Giannis now has his chance to show the world what he's capable of in a series that is going to be potentially a career defining moment so far in his early career. So I imagine he's going to be a focal point for the Bucks. I know he's still dealing with that knee issue that he sustained in game 4. So we'll definitely keep an eye out for him and his status going into the NBA finals. But the way that I see it, this is going to be a very fun matchup between the Bucks and the Suns for the NBA finals this year. It's not really a finals matchup that I envisioned. I think a lot of people had either the Lakers or the Nets, the Lakers and the Nets playing in the finals, just because that was the early season prediction. But we got a gritty Milwaukee team going up against a very hot Phoenix Suns team that has a lot of young guys who are ready to prove something, and they've got a veteran leader in Chris Paul who's trying to claim his first championship as an NBA player. So, granted, I'm not going to get too much into the preview for the NBA finals yet. I believe that's something that Kevin and I will probably touch on our next episode. That will probably be out Monday, so definitely stay tuned for that. But all in all, like I said before, give a lot of credit to Milwaukee, give a lot of credit to Mike Budenholzer to getting this team to the NBA finals. They faced some moments of adversity, but they were able to overcome it, and now they're in a situation where they're competing for an NBA title. So give Milwaukee a lot of credit. They definitely earned their place in the NBA finals this year. But with that said, you guys, that'll pretty much wrap it up from here. I just wanted to give a quick analysis about Game 6 between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. Even though that I talked a lot about Milwaukee here, you got to give a lot of credit to Atlanta for having a sensational year as well. Nate McMillan's probably going to be the head coach for the Hawks for the foreseeable future. He's definitely earned his spot as the next head coach for this team. And it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a pretty hefty contract extension with what he was able to do with this team. The fact that the Atlanta Hawks, who were the 5th seed in the playoffs, got all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and were at one point only 2 games away from getting to the finals. That's absolutely outstanding for Nate McMillan. So I give a lot of credit and I give a lot of kudos for Nate McMillan to get this team to where they are. So it's a very young team. Atlanta is definitely a team on the rise, and it's well deserved. So even though that they came up a little bit short in this series against Milwaukee, you got to give Atlanta a lot of credit here, because I don't think a lot of people thought that Atlanta would even get out of the first round, let alone get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals with the chance to get to the finals on the line. So, like I said, give Atlanta a lot of credit for getting to this point when not a lot of people expected that to even be some sort of possibility whatsoever. But that's pretty much all I got from here, you guys. Like I said, appreciate you guys tuning in to watch the stream. If you guys like the content, like the video down below. If you guys want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, either comment or subscribe to the channel. Kevin and I definitely appreciate any sort of support that we can get for the channel. It's definitely appreciated. And with that said, you guys, I hope you guys have a fantastic 4th of July tomorrow. Have fun. Our next episode of the Neighborhood Podcast will probably be out Monday, if not Tuesday. So we'll definitely be going over the NBA Finals matchup that's going to take place between the Suns and the Bucks. We'll definitely do some previews on that. And as far as NBA content goes, we're coming to the end of the season, so this is what it's all about. And Kevin and I are definitely going to be excited for what the next week and a half is going to bring in the NBA Finals. But that's all I got from here, you guys. Thank you again for tuning into the stream, and